Welcome. I'm just gonna be honest with you tonight. I mean, I got so much energy. I'm just trying to give it away. I mean, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy it. I promise you, I'm here to give it away for free. It's just amazing to be back in the building. I've been traveling like crazy, and when you travel, you see things, and you see a lot of things that's going on in our world. We're in this place. And so the question is, like, how do we bring all of that together? Like, how do we balance our lives in the midst of everything that we're going on? So I'm really excited to see everybody back. Listen, No Excuses presents the Ray Lewis Show. I have seen so much in the last few days, and what I've noticed is, and it's what I'm gonna bring Coach in really quickly, about who's leading us. Like a bunch of us are moving, right? We're moving, everybody's moving. And I sat somewhere, nobody knew who I was. And I sat somewhere and I watched every almost 50, 100 people walk by and never pay attention to who's beside you, who's walking past you, what's coming, what's behind you, who's leading us. Without further ado, I want to bring my man in here. For 20 plus years, we all need brothers. And the good book says, iron sharpens iron. When I tell you we've been sharpening each other for a long time, I ride with him and through anything. Come on in here, Coach. I need to pass my energy down today. And you know when I get in this mode, Coach, it's something got to come out of me today, and I just want to get rid of it. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. So good to see you, man. I know that this is the busy time of the year with you, especially with this playoff, man. But you do get to go to a lot of places and see a lot of things, man. And so I'm excited for you, man, having fun, doing everything. And let's jump into this principle today.
Ooh, let's jump into the principle today, because we've last few weeks, right? Reinvent yourself, capturing us excellence. What's the plan? But this one is a little bit different, right? Because we wanted to do something just a little bit different, right? Where does your leadership come from? Like when we talk about effective leadership, let me tell you something. Listeners, listen to this. Listeners create people who feel listened to. We're moving. See, we got so much going on in the world, Coach. I'm talking about so much going on. When we talk about effective leadership, the number one thing, and you know this because I've been watching this in the playoffs and just in football, it's in everything. It's in business, it's in life, it's in families, it's in everything. But communication and listening is the true key to effective leadership.
Absolutely, man. In order to get along well with others, in order to work well with others, and even in order to live well with others, you must be a good communicator. And words, man, are so powerful as it relates to communication. Words can create miracles, man. Words are so powerful that the Bible said that the word was God. And so, like, when we communicate, man, I think it's so important. You list a very key element, and that's listening. But we might need to take a step back, you know, especially as we cultivate our championship mentality, trying to get better in each one of these principles. That communication is a very key one, and is you have to be effective not only as a leader, but in order to be a champion. So I'm glad we touching bases on it today. You talking about listening, and one of the things I always say, man, it's easy to hear, but it's hard to listen.
Hard to listen. Look, see, I'm telling you, that's what I'm talking about when we talk about effective leadership. Like, see, let's just be honest, bro. We're lacking real leadership in our world, bro. We real leadership is hard to find because you don't know where we're being confused at. One of the most critical elements of being communicative is authenticity, right? Like who are you? And today it's important to just be yourself. Like if we just was ourselves, if we stop hiding behind emails and texting and social media, we hide behind so many things. I'm telling you, like, we've lost it. We've lost where leadership starts to breathe from. And I think, honestly, while we're here today, it's time for us to become the leader. Followers gonna always be followers. But how many people are bold enough to step into the shoes of a leader?
Yeah. And I tell you, man, you said a key word earlier, effective leadership.
Effective.
And that's so important because we may have people in leadership positions, but may not be communicating effectively. Right. For example, it's like, say you on the field and it's the first half and y'all talked about it all week. Don't let the ball get behind your head. And then it happens in the game and the safety come back on the sideline or whatever. And then there's two ways to communicate to them. There's either, you know what, we went through that film. What were you seeing that allowed you to make that move? Yeah. Or the other type of leadership. What the bleep are you doing? That was dumb. That was stupid. What are you thinking? You causing, and you could tell the difference between the two.
Yeah.
The effective communication, Ray, is a big thing, and not just in sports, in life. If my house smelling good and I'm hungry, but if I'm like, hey, babe, hurry up, fix my plate. Man, I'm hungry. Or I can say, you know what, babe, it smells real good in here. The aroma, I can't wait to taste it. What time will dinner be ready? That's more effective leadership, man, in order to get things done, in order to live with somebody well. So these communication skills, it may be something that we need to practice. And there are some people that communicate out of anger, out of negativity, and you lose people along that way. So I think it's also important to be kind along the way when we communicate.
If we can't communicate, we can't build anything. We can't build a marriage. You can't build an organization or a team. So when you talk about the game of football, watching some of the things that happened this weekend, just in the divisional rounds, Coach, I'm losing my mind from a defensive perspective. Like, I'm losing my mind. I mean, you mean to tell me that you can actually score 25 points in 1 minute and 54 seconds? You can score 4 touchdowns and a field goal? I will tell you that's impossible. I will bet anything if you told me that was possible. Because one of the things that when I'm watching television, the number one thing when you see one of these big plays and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, and I mean great talents, I mean they are freaking amazing. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, is flirting with greatness. The boy flirting with greatness, not he. I'm telling you, he rough. My goodness, he rough. Okay, now let me get back on the defensive side, right? But the thing is with this defense, there's no communication. There is absolutely no communication. They might as well watch the game from where I'm watching the game, because that's what they're doing. They're seeing the quarterback throw it. They're seeing the receiver catch it. Nobody is changing the math. But guess what? You think the math changes when the ball says hike. It does not. The math changes when you communicate what you see before the play is snapped. What is the formation? What are the tendencies? Communication in anything that has team to it. If you don't communicate, it's hard. It's hard to be successful in any area of life without the right communication.
Right, absolutely. You could be a mediocre defense, but if you ain't communicating, you could get blasted, by a terrible offense. And so that's just how important communication is. And you hear it all the time. Communication is key. Yeah, but it's got to be effective with, again, listening. In order to be a great listener, you have to be a great communicator. And so that's something someone may need to practice. I had to practice it. Listening, because you could call and we could be talking. Big difference between hearing and listening. And you could be talking and I could be on my phone and you could be talking and I was like, yeah, I hear you. Go ahead, keep talking. I hear you, keep talking. Yeah, I do hear you. Yeah, but I'm not listening to you. And effective communication, whether it's a game, relationship, all that matters, man. And it's worth repeating this kindness thing, man. When you're communicating to people, whether it's to the waiter, the doorman at a hotel, your Uber driver, be kind to people, because it's not what you say,
Right.
it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, mean what you say and say what you mean, but say it kindly. And more than likely, that's more in time that you would be able to get together and solve the problem effectively. And so that kindness, man, and listening, Ray, I can't implement it so much more. If I'm doing something wrong and you're speaking facts, and I really could be wrong, it really depends on how you talking to me in order for my response. But if you're honest with me and you communicating with me in kindness and a kind way, we can get the job done.
Let me tell you why. We hear with our ears. We listen with our heart. See, let me tell you something. That's why when something sinks in, you allow it to sink in. You just said it, right? Sometimes you're on your phone. Oh, I hear you. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because it ain't changed your spirit yet. It ain't jumped in your heart yet. It ain't made you sit down and just think about it for a minute. I'm gonna tell you something. And this is a credit to the brotherhood that we have had for years. And this is for somebody. One of the things that kept us, I'm telling you, I'm talking about a high level, a very high level. We learned how to communicate without even speaking. We started walking in the weight room, and by your temperament, by how you walk, by your face, by everything, by the same way I look, Coach, listen, do you know how many times we walked in that weight room and spent an hour and a half and said absolutely nothing?
Yeah.
But every time you needed me or I needed you, you didn't have to ask for me to come help you. Mm-hmm. I'm already there. See, it's one thing about effective leadership. One of the things that I want to make sure people understand is a lot of times it ain't what you say. It's not only how you say it, it's how you present what you're going to say. Mm-hmm. You know, we jump at people, we snap at people. We got all of these fights now that's going on around the world, but nobody is effectively communicating with each other.
Because everybody want to talk and nobody want to listen. And here's a good tip, man, for this communication as we go forward. Sometimes if you just listen with sympathy and with empathy, that's all a person needs. When you know, God bless your father when he passed away. When you called me, man, and you was crying and you was in tears, only thing I had to do was listen and be there for you. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not my father passed. Oh, Lou, it's gonna be all right. You know what? Keep your head up. Let's just move forward. No, just be quiet and listen. If you and your spouse or you and somebody going through an argument, you will be amazed how listening could diffuse the argument. Just by hearing them out, just by listening to them. Your child come home and they dealing with something that happened at school. Sometimes the best tool to deal with disappointments, quarreling, and a lack of good, effective communication is to listen. And so that could be very effective for someone out there, because you may be thinking, we need to communicate, we need to talk, we need to do this. And really, all you need to do is listen in order to be effective.
Most people are bringing bad things in their life simply because of the power of their tongue. If the good book says the power of life and death is found in the tongue, then imagine the things that you're speaking. Imagine the things that you're reciting over and over, whether it's songs, whether it's movies, whether it's whatever. You're speaking these things over and over. So guess what you're not doing? You're speaking and not listening. Look, Coach, we're going to get out of here because there's something that has to happen in order for us to get back to some sort of a place to where we understand each other as people. I don't care if you're—
I agree, Ray.
Right? Huh?
I agree, man. And you know what? He was talking about the state of the world and things that's going on with the world. Definitely. And you're talking about leadership. One of the things that's killing us, man, is we can't communicate because we don't have, you can't communicate with someone that don't have the same concept of something that you're talking about. Like if you and I are communicating and we're discussing something and we don't have the same concept, the same belief, then we're just talking. We're not communicating. For an example, let's say during the election And a group here believes that the election was stolen. Okay, they believe that with all their heart. Don't matter what you tell them, the election was stolen. Then you got another group over here during the election. They believe that, you know what, the votes counted, you know what, they did investigations, judges came out, they found no sense of being any fraud. That's two different groups, but they got a different belief. There's no way you can communicate effectively if you don't share the same concept. If you don't believe in equality for all, and I do believe in equality for all, we could try to communicate, but it's really going to be talking. And so as we move forward, just keep that in mind. Whoever you communicate with, you at least have to understand the same concept that you all are over. Because if our concepts are different, we're going to have a misconception, which leads to a misunderstanding, which leads to a lack of understanding and division. And so not only leadership, Ray, boy, you talked about that, the leadership, not only of our world, our country and all that, effective leadership and people having different concepts, man, and different beliefs. And I'm going to let you go, man, and let you close it, but somebody need to hear this. You can believe something, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Wow.
And so just keep all that in mind when it comes to communicating. I could go talk to anybody right now online, or somebody got a negative comment, but if they believe in something and I believe in something and we got a totally different concept of what we're talking about, then we just talking. We're not communicating.
That's why our world at. We just talking. We ain't communicating. That's why social media is so violent. Everybody just talking. Everybody think they're being heard, but nobody is listening. Coach, as always, brother, love you for life. Appreciate you. And effective leadership. I never forget when I looked at you one day before the game and I said, you said, bro, how we gonna win this game? I said, Coach, let me tell you something. I may not have it all physically, but mentally, I got my boys dialed in. I said, there's nothing we don't know. I said, when I walk in that room, if I call out a certain play, we all calling out the play. What we've communicated with each other, and man, let me tell you, that communication led me to my second ring.
Championship, man. It brings you to the championship. That's why it's a principle as we cultivate this championship mentality. It's a major principle. I promise you, there's been great offenses that y'all played against. Yeah. But man, you communicating. He going backside. He going there. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Like, man, Ray calling out all our plays. But guess what it led to? A championship, a statue.
Yeah.
You know, communication teams is a key principle to our championship mentality. And if there's something you need to work on, just like everything, let's practice it. Let's practice it. Let's practice listening. Let's practice communicating effectively for effective leadership.
Coach, appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Rounding up, it's really interesting, right? I'm gonna give you 5 quick principles to effective leadership. And I want all 5 principles to be practiced on today. Number 1, be direct and simple. Be direct and simple. Let your yes be yes and let your no be no. James chapter 5. Number 2, communicate frequently. You know, closed mouths don't get fed. That's one of the things that you do. You get mad at somebody, or y'all have a disagreement. Oh, you ain't gonna talk to them for a week, or you ain't gonna talk to them for a month. Communicate. Communication unsolves a lot of hard problems. If you don't do nothing else, number 3, ask for feedback. Always be willing to hear another perspective. Always. Because if you can't hear another perspective, no matter what y'all talking about, you can't solve nothing. Our world is in a place where we don't want to hear nobody else's perspective. Oh, they're this, they're that. Listen instead of judge. Number 4, walk your talk. Everybody talking. Everybody has something to say. But are they really living it? Are they living what they're talking about? We're talking about effective leadership. We're talking about the people. Who are you following? Who's doing what they're supposed to be doing to lead you in the right places in your life? Number 5 is something that a lot of people run away from because of their past. But if I don't tell you nothing else, share your story. Share your testimony. That may be the only chance somebody ever hear a way for their breakthrough through your story. Master and effective leadership. We must, as a country, as a world, we must be willing to serve. Truth is a hard thing to come by these days. The truth, it's a hard thing to come by these days. But this week, if you don't do nothing else, I want you to write down, and I want you to take ownership of who are you following? Who's leading you? And the people that's leading you and the things that's speaking out of your mouth and the joy and the happiness and all of these things that we have, even in a time of crisis, we have a lot. We have faith, we have hope, we have love, we have togetherness, we have it all. Well, then the question remains simple. Where are you getting your information from? Yeah, who's effectively changing your life every time you hear a word from them? It ain't who you following. It's what's the message. It don't matter, black, white. I leave you with this. I hear it all the times when I talk about helping the black communities, black and brown neighborhoods. And I hear people say, I want to help. But then I realize you're really not listening. Because the only way to help is you got to understand their communication. They look for the same opportunities. And as a world, we've decided to hold education, entrepreneurship, employment. We've decided to hold that back from certain areas. But imagine if every neighborhood communicated the same language. Imagine if we had one language that we can speak every day, the rest of our lives. And that was the language of love. We all win. God bless you. Have an incredible week. See you next week.